If you finished Hollow Knight and were left wanting more, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That world of Hollow Nest, full of secrets, challenging bosses, and an atmosphere that grips you from beginning to end, it's hard to find anything that beats that feeling. But relax, because the Metroidvania genre hasn't stopped there. Today, I'm going to show you 10 new games that will make you dive into worlds just as rich as Hollow Knight's. Each with its own identity, but all with that essence of exploration, combat, and discovery that we love. If you're looking for new worlds to get lost in, this list is for you.
Vanishing Starlight is a Metroidvania that, for anyone who loved Hollow Knight, is practically a must-play. You start playing as a prisoner who has lost their memories, on a journey that takes you through a celestial landscape among stars, mountains, and rivers. The sense of exploration and discovery is very strong, something Hollow Knight fans value highly, as the focus here is also on that perfect mix of challenging combat and richly detailed atmospheres that invite you to uncover secrets hidden in every corner. The art style is one of the most eye-catching points. Vanishing Starlight features hand-drawn pixel art with frame-by-frame animations, ensuring impressive fluidity in movement. This helps create a living and immersive world, which has unique touches by incorporating a theme that mixes cyberpunk with elements of Chinese mythology, offering not only a visual experience, but also a fresh narrative and setting. This fusion of styles helps the game stand out in a sea of Metroidvanias that often stick too closely to a single pattern. Speaking of gameplay, the gameplay mixes agile combat with powerful magic that you unlock, and this is a point that strongly evokes that feeling of mastery we get when playing Hollow Knight. The enemies and bosses require quick reflexes, precise dodges, and mastery of the game's two main forces, light and darkness, to overcome challenges that test your strategy and skill. Additionally, the game offers a non-linear map with secrets that encourage exploration and the use of arcane runes that modify your fighting style, which adds a very personal flavor to how you choose to face encounters. The plot, though mysterious, is quite captivating. The protagonist's memory loss and the search for lost memories in a fantastic universe create an emotional connection that makes you want to know more, not just advance in the game. This, combined with the mystical setting and the influence of Chinese folklore, creates a narrative that reveals itself little by little, a mechanic that Hollow Knight also used very well, making you feel that every discovered piece has real weight in the story's development. A differential worth noting is the balance between exploration and intense combat, something Hollow Knight fans will find comforting. The world of Vanishing Starlight is full of secret shortcuts and interesting items that change your build and tactics, encouraging you to revisit previously explored areas from new perspectives without becoming tiresome. The estimated duration for the campaign is over 20 hours, which ensures a good amount of content to immerse yourself in and fall in love with. What personally won me over in Vanishing Starlight was this sense of familiarity in the challenge and depth of exploration, while at the same time the game stands out with a unique visual and thematic identity. For those who are passionate about Metroidvanias that challenge skills and reward curiosity, it is certainly a title that deserves a lot of attention and promises to be among the favorites of folks who are looking for something new after Hollow Knight. It's the kind of game you go around recommending to everyone and are happy to see other people enjoying every little piece of this stellar adventure. Timespinner 2: Unwoven Dream is one of those Metroidvanias that perfectly balances nostalgia and innovation. Ideal for those who loved Hollow Knight and are looking for something that brings that same feeling of discovery and challenge. The protagonist, Aurea, returns from a heroic past for a battle that transcends time. In a story where you traverse two worlds in different eras,
a concept that adds a special and fresh spice to the classic genre experience. The game's visual is a spectacle in itself, with rich pixel art, modern 16-bit style, full of details that seem straight out of the golden age of platformers, but with the fluidity and graphical effects that please modern eyes. The soundtrack deserves highlighting for the immersion it creates, blending epic and subtle tones that bring every explored corner to life, something Hollow Knight fans tend to value highly as an essential part of the atmosphere. The main mechanic that sets Timespinner 2 apart is the power to manipulate time, which isn't just a visual effect, but something that profoundly influences combat strategy and exploration. Stopping time to avoid attacks, create openings to attack enemies, or dodge traps turns the game into a cerebral challenge beyond the quick reflexes typical of Metroidvanias. This brings an extra layer of complexity and customization to the playstyle, allowing for various ways to approach battles. The world structure is divided between past and present, creating a mirror effect where each area can have parallel versions with unique secrets, challenges, and paths. This duality builds a feeling that exploration never gets monotonous, strongly encouraging revisiting places with newly acquired abilities, which reinforces the sense of a living, dynamic universe that fans of the genre love to find. The narrative, despite having a more adult and complex tone, is told with subtlety, embedded in the gameplay and dialogues with other characters, making the story reveal itself gradually as you progress. Oria's personal connection with her family and the impact of time travel give emotional weight to the adventure, something that resonates well with players who appreciate deep stories and characters with tangible motivations. Timespinner 2 Unwoven Dream seems to me like a Metroidvania that will win over any fan of the genre who enjoys that balance between challenge, precision, and exploration. The combination of a solid narrative, a well-implemented time manipulation system, and charming visuals places it in a very strong position among recent releases. Perfect for those who missed a new Hollow Knight with a unique identity and a very well-executed technical and narrative touch. It definitely deserves your attention.
Nyana is a Metroidvania that promises to win over fans of the genre who are looking for an experience that goes beyond typical combat and exploration, bringing an innovative touch with a base-building mechanic that is central to the journey. You play as Nyana, a woman fighting to free her oppressed people, and this story of resistance brings a strong emotional connection, something that resonates with those who love the deeper narrative of Hollow Knight. The game's visual is breathtaking, with hand-drawn art and a style reminiscent of other big names in the genre, but with a very strong identity of its own. The setting is rich, showing everything from ancient ruins to territories dominated by magical invaders. And all of this creates a world that you really want to explore in detail. This visual and sound construction builds a dense atmosphere, enveloping the player in every step of the journey. The base you build during the game isn't just a resting place, but a true fortress that expands as you progress, offering upgrades, abilities, and access to new resources. This base upgrade system adds strategic layers to the game, as besides battles, you need to think about how to manage and protect this refuge for your recruited allies. In combat, Nyana brings an approach that mixes personalized magic and stealth, which is an interesting differential. Although you can face fights head-on using customized spells, often the smarter way is to avoid confrontations, explore, and gather resources to strengthen your character before facing bosses. This choice between direct action and stealth creates a dynamic that keeps the pace and interest high. Exploration is rich and non-linear,
supported by a transformation mechanic that provides challenging and varied segments, allowing each player to have a unique experience as they choose their path and abilities to develop. This greatly expands the game's replay value, something that Metroidvania enthusiasts know how to appreciate. Nyana seems to be a title that combines the best of classic and modern Metroidvanias, offering challenge, narrative depth, and diverse strategies, all wrapped in charming visuals. For those who liked the dark and challenging universe of Hollow Knight, Nyana is a full plate and a recommendation that is well worth it for anyone wanting to expand their repertoire without losing the essence of what makes the genre so special. Xearz is a 2D action platformer that brings a very nostalgic vibe, reminiscent of 90s classics like Castlevania and Contra. And this immediately grabs the attention of those who enjoy Metroidvanias with a more old-school feel. For those who loved Hollow Knight, Xearz might be an interesting surprise, as although it's not a pure Metroidvania in the traditional sense, it incorporates elements of exploration and platforming, with depth that will please fans of the genre. The game's visual is a standout feature, with pre-rendered graphics that give a different and more polished feel, moving away from common pixel art and creating a richly detailed atmosphere that truly stands out. This art style harks back to the style that many fans of retro games value, while also bringing its own identity, which enriches the immersive experience. In terms of gameplay, Xearz mixes fast-paced action with interaction on multiple planes, allowing movement forward and backward on different layers of the scenery. This brings a cool tactical depth to battles and stages, allowing the player to use melee weapons, pistols with guided bullets, and other sub-weapons like grenades and flamethrowers to face varied enemies. Although exploration isn't as expansive as in a classic Metroidvania, the game encourages searching for items and destroying objects in the environment, which guarantees a certain freedom to discover secrets. The feel of combat is intense, and the level design is made for those who like challenges, with a system that demands quick reflexes and strategy to advance, something that Hollow Knight fans will certainly recognize as attractive. The game is also marked by a soundtrack and sound design that match its retro style, creating the perfect soundscape to dive into the levels, enhancing the immersion and the feeling of being on an intense, action-packed adventure. This combination strengthens the mood and rhythm, which balance challenges and moments of exploration. Overall, Xearz seems like a perfect experience for those who love platformers and action games with a retro touch, and who would also miss that adrenaline and precision in combat that Hollow Knight delivered. It's a game that manages to be challenging, stylish, and full of personality. Even if it's not a traditional Metroidvania, it's well worth checking out for those who want something new, but with that classic feel that never goes out of style.
Steampunks is a Metroidvania that captures a very special charm for those who like the genre, especially if you fell in love with the atmosphere and design of Hollow Knight. In the game, you control Duns Calhan, one of the city's elite agents, diving into a lore-rich narrative within a vibrant steampunk world full of mysteries. This angle connects you immediately because the game banks on a dense and detailed universe that makes you want to explore every nook and cranny. Visually, Steampunks is a feast for the eyes, with meticulously designed environments that mix classic, industrial steampunk elements with dark and mysterious nuances, creating a unique and very pleasant setting. This gives the feeling of being in a living world, where each scene seems to tell its own story, something that will really remind fans of the artistic and atmospheric style that Hollow Knight did so well. In terms of gameplay, the game offers arcade action with platforming and exploration, balancing the adrenaline of combat with a constant sense of discovery. The checkpoint system and map design show that Steampunk's bets on an accessible yet satisfying challenge, ideal for those who want a solid experience without excessive frustration, something genre fans value to maintain the flow of exploration. The mechanics include collecting items, upgrades, and abilities that allow access to new areas, mixing the traditional aspects of this genre well with some new features that keep the experience refreshing. It's a game that encourages you to revisit areas to uncover secrets and master challenges, something every Metroidvania fan knows is crucial for immersion. The narrative, although not the supreme focus of the game, has enough substance to maintain your interest, with a plot involving conspiracies, clashes between factions, and the fight for control of the city, all wrapped in a very well-constructed steampunk atmosphere, which joins the visuals and story in a compelling combination. Steampunk seems to me like an experience that mixes the best of Metroidvania with that unique steampunk touch, offering a challenge that ranges from casual to satisfying in just the right dose. Ideal for those who love the genre and want something with its own identity and plenty of style. If you're a fan of Hollow Knight, it's well worth giving it a chance, as it brings that same feeling of exploring a rich and mysterious world, but with its own soul and challenge.
Locket is a Metroidvania that mixes fast-paced action with a very stylish feel and an engaging narrative, perfect for those who loved Hollow Knight and want an experience that combines agile combat with inspiring visuals. In the game, you control Rose, an ex-outlaw who traverses the domains of the Underwest, a kind of spiritual Old West world, on a mission that is both personal and full of action, which creates an immediate, emotional connection. The graphic style of Locket is one of its major highlights, adopting a look reminiscent of comics and hand-drawn animations, giving it a unique charm. The art is very detailed and colorful, with character and environment designs that immerse you in a universe that mixes Western, fantasy, and a lot of energy. This strong visual identity pairs very well with the vibrant soundtrack and sound effects that bring the world to life. When it comes to gameplay, the game focuses on fast and precise combat, somewhat reminiscent of a twin-stick shooter, where you can shoot in any direction while moving fluidly through the environment. This dynamic involves a lot of breathtaking action and constant challenges, which makes the experience very intense and rewarding. Something that Hollow Knight fans, who appreciate technical fights and fluid movements, will enjoy a lot. Furthermore, the game offers natural progression, with the unlocking of abilities and upgrades that make the gameplay even more dynamic, encouraging the player to explore every corner of the Underwest and to reinvent themselves in combat as they advance. These elements provide depth and longevity, making each revealed area have new features and surprises that keep interest always high. The story, though simple at its core, carries an aura of mystery and adventure, centered on Rose and her past, with a journey that mixes redemption and confrontations with powerful bosses in the midst of this spiritual landscape. This narrative is delivered with care and tailored not to distract from the game's frantic pace,
but at the same time, ensuring a strong motivation to move forward. Locket is that game that leaves a lasting impression through its combination of visual style, fluid gameplay, and a unique setting. For those who loved Hollow Knight and are looking for something that offers intense action with its own identity and a lot of personality, it's a recommendation that can't be missing from your list, because it manages to be both classic and refreshing in the competitive world of Metroidvanias. Akatori is the type of Metroidvania that, for those who loved Hollow Knight, brings a vibe that mixes beautiful pixel art and combat with a very different feel. You control the young Mako, a temple warrior who sets out on a journey to save a world inspired by East Asia from the Industrial Revolution, but which is being taken over by a chaotic energy. The setting and the pixel art are an invitation to explore, and you soon realize that the game has its own identity. It's not just another pretty Metroidvania on the shelf. The differential of Akatori lies in its combat and movement system, which revolves around the magic staff Mako carries. It functions as a melee weapon, can be thrown, and even used to jump at angles you normally couldn't with a simple double jump. This mechanic of the staff also being a trampoline brings a level of platforming that challenges and entertains, making you think of Hollow Knight's movements, but in a new and more magical way. The game also features an alternate dimension that alters the map and the environment, revealing secrets and changes as you interact with the world. This switching between worlds adds an extra layer of exploration, where you have to deal with corruption that can transform the scenery and gameplay. And dealing with it requires strategy, like ringing bells that will affect both the environment and the hidden secrets. It's a mechanic that reminded me a bit of the overlapping worlds in other Metroidvanias, only with an Eastern and mystical spice that captivated me. Despite what Akatori delivers in terms of visuals and original ideas, the combat still has some problems that draw attention. The feeling of the hits and the responsiveness don't always match the design's potential. Some maneuvers are complicated to execute, and the enemy AI is simple, which might frustrate those who like more refined challenges. However, in boss fights, things get better and show that the game can mature a lot by its full release. What makes me excited is how much the studio seems open to improving these flaws and how much personality the game has. It doesn't try to be a copy of Hollow Knight, but rather a reinterpretation with its own elements, like the fusion of staff combat and the exploration of two worlds. It's the kind of game that, if it continues to evolve, will win over the crowd that likes Metroidvanias with a more tactical and artistic touch. If you're hyped for new Metroidvanias that bring novelty and impressive visuals, Akatori is a title to keep on your radar. The demo is already available for free, and it's well worth giving it a try to feel the flow of combat and the beauty of the scenery. It's a journey that mixes kung fu, magic, and mystery. Perfect for those who want something reminiscent of Hollow Knight, but with its own personality and promises of a bright future in the genre. Bushiden is a Metroidvania that goes straight to the heart of anyone who loves classic Metroidvanias
with a futuristic ninja twist. If you like the style of Hollow Knight, get ready for an experience that mixes fast-paced action, sharp platforming, and a touch of cyberpunk that gives the genre a modern face. We control Rayleigh, the last of the ancient Ego-Ryu lineage, on a mission to save his missing sister while facing cybernetic armies commanded by Gao, an enemy who has returned from the past seeking revenge. What caught my attention most in Bushiden is how it combines that fluid and responsive gameplay with beautiful, well-drawn pixel art, bringing the best of the 90s, but with an updated vibe. The game starts with a prologue where the difficulty already sets the tone for what's to come. Precision in jumps, dodging enemies, and using the unique crowd control combat system make all the difference for surviving and exploring the 7 levels and its non-linear map full of secrets. Speaking of combat, this is where Bushiden shines, with its system that allows you to face large groups of enemies with fast and precise attacks, as well as combos that make the battles very exciting. Furthermore, abilities are unlocked as you progress and defeat bosses, which brings a constant sense of evolution and reward for those who like to improve gradually, something that for me is essential in a Metroidvania that holds your attention. An extra layer of strategy appears with the cybernetic upgrades Rayleigh finds along the way, which allow you to customize your playstyle between physical attacks, magic, and ninja techniques. The game's cyberpunk visual, combined with the electronic soundtrack, creates an atmosphere that reminded me a lot of that fusion that only games like Strider can achieve, but with level design and narrative that stand out for their authenticity and the charisma of the universe created by Pixelark Studios. However, the game isn't just beauty and steel, as some bosses might seem exaggerated in resistance, and the pacing of some parts might feel more technical than fluid, creating challenges that test the player's patience and skill to the limit. Even so, for me, these points serve more as an invitation for dedication and learning than true obstacles. Bushiden is a title that you Hollow Knight fans should keep an eye on if you want something that delivers that classic Metroidvania feeling, but with an adult and futuristic touch that brings new features to combat and exploration. I highly recommend trying it out to feel how the combination of ninjas, cyber upgrades, and a story with a personal touch can make you fall in love with this new indie gem of the genre. Volunteer the Ascension is a Metroidvania that really caught attention for its unique blend of Metroidvania exploration with JRPG-style narrative. Something I found quite interesting for those who enjoy a deeper dive not only into gameplay, but also into the story. The game takes place in the magical world of Rawa, a place full of interconnected biomes, packed with secrets, varied enemies, and lots of magic to master. For those who loved Hollow Knight, it's that intense exploration experience, but with a narrative touch that brings the universe to life. Right at the beginning, you control Hira, a mysterious boy with a forgotten past, adopted in a quiet village but who carries a powerful legacy. The story is built with a sort of dream and reality feel, where Hira has a special form, the Overgrowth, a more powerful and mystical version of himself which you can unlock and use for more intense battles. This duality is somewhat reminiscent of that Hollow Knight vibe, where you become more than you appear. Combat in Fallen Tier is fluid and accessible, focusing on melee combos using a staff that can be thrown and recalled, an element that brings a cool dynamic to the action. I really liked how the game balances this simplicity with depth, allowing you to customize your combat style with elemental abilities of fire, water, air, and earth, plus an evolution tree full of options to specialize as you prefer. The world is gigantic, even being compared by some fans to the Elden Ring of Metroidvanias, with over 26 biomes, hundreds of enemies, and a series of quests that not only advance the main story, but also expand the universe and the protagonist's relationships with his allies, called Fated Bonds. These bonds are especially interesting, as they reinforce the RPG aspect, allowing for different strategies and even unique combos in combat based on the group's synergies. In the visual department, Fallen Tier is a spectacle in itself, with hand-drawn art, fluid animations, and a soundtrack that sets an epic and engaging mood. It's impossible not to get hooked on exploring every corner of the map. Although the combat is relatively simple in its demo phase, it already proves to be satisfying and has the potential to grow a lot, especially with the promise of upgrades and new abilities that the Ascension system offers. For those who enjoy Metroidvanias with that touch of strong story, charismatic characters, and a vast world full of mysteries, Fallen Tier: The Ascension is one of those worth the wait and attention. It's that game that grips you not just by the gameplay, but by the desire to know what comes next, to see the protagonist grow, and to uncover every secret of the world of Rawa. Perfect for those looking for a spiritual successor to Hollow Knight with its own personality and ambition.
The balance of our world rests on your shoulders.
This is no mere adventure.
To what do I owe pleasure?
Well, what are we making?
My professional opinion? Get all the help you can.
We've got your back, hero.
System Purge Hollow Point is an ideal game. For those who like Hollow Knight, it might even seem like a distant cousin, as here the dense atmosphere and difficulty are more highlighted points than the typical exploration of Metroidvania maps, but it still presents a platforming challenge that hooks players who like the genre. The story dives into the tragic and surreal, with the protagonist trying to recreate or save the memory of a lost love, exploring an underground complex full of nightmares and corrupted memories. The setting seems to come out of a Lovecraftian nightmare with technological touches, creating a claustrophobic and intense experience, which moves away from the dark fairy tale that Hollow Knight presents for a dark and distressing journey more focused on psychological horror. The gameplay is focused on precision platforming with an instant death system reminiscent of games like Super Meat Boy, where every mistake can mean restarting a section. This creates constant tension and a sense of accomplishment with each advance, but it might turn away those looking for a traditional Metroidvania of open exploration and gradual progression, as the game does not have a typical map and its gameplay is more linear. Visually, System Purge Hollow Point uses pixel art, with a design of shadows and lights that emphasizes the horror mood, creating a strong contrast between beauty and a sense of discomfort, which, for me, is one of the biggest attractions for those who like this type of atmosphere. The soundtrack and ambient sound help compose this immersive experience, making exploration and advancement a true psychological test that goes beyond control and skill. For those who are fans of Hollow Knight, System Purge Hollowpoint might be interesting mainly for its dense atmosphere and high challenge, but don't expect a game whose main emphasis is on exploration and meticulous map building. It's for those who like brutal challenges, stories mixed with psychological horror, and an impactful and oppressive visual, offering a unique experience, but one that breaks the traditional molds of the Metroidvania genre.